Hi
Hello.
This is Otito
And Stanley.
from the Grey Couch, and today we're coming with this question that we've been pondering, right, as we're preparing for our webinar tomorrow. Make sure you join us. But we're thinking about flexible thinking, right? Flexibility in thinking. So the age-old question, right? Like, we believe that men and women are wired differently, which is interesting, right? Because some people might say, not true,
True.
yeah. However,
It's one thing to say it,
yep,
and it's another thing to see it in action.
to see it in action. Like, so if I believe that, men are wired differently, why don't I take that belief into action when I'm trying to explain a situation, that you did or you didn't do, right? I think that's the
Or
question.
settle a disagreement, or understand the other side of the
Or
person.
understand the other side of the question. So I can say men are different, but then I'm saying, why can't
Didn't
they
you
be
do
like
this?
why can't they be less different? But I think that the question there is like, like I say, that even if people can learn new behaviors, right? Remember when you were trying to go on your on your run?
Okay. What was going on at the
I
time?
don't know, the bear story.
Oh. Okay. Really,
So if you think you cannot learn something,
really interesting. So this was during the pandemic, right? Well,
Yeah.
the first of two stories. This was during the pandemic, and everything was quiet, and sure, I went around. And as I'm running, I see a policeman coming down me, and he flags me and stops me down. And this was right when pandemic started, and nobody was supposed to be going out. So at first, I thought that maybe am I going to get a ticket for running during the
black man
pandemic?
in America.
I'm now stopping. I'm really very, very, anxious. And then he winds down his window, and the guy says that he just wants to inform me that a bear has been sighted in the area. So while was he talking, I said, "I'm sorry, did you say bear?" Before he responded, I turned around and I took off running, and that has been my best time to date to get back. But I mean, the reason being, as macho as anybody says there, or whatever learned behavior you have,
as manly as you are.
you hear bear around the area. I mean, even if you have a gun, you should turn around and run.
Actually, let's qualify this. Maybe Nigerian men, because sometimes white folks, they run toward danger, right? We are not primed to be that way.
I haven't seen any other folks
running towards danger. Well,
I mean, maybe
true,
fire, maybe shake, but bear.
But the situation was that you didn't even see the thing. Like, it was just based on the hearing, right? So, again, bear story, not bear story. The question we're trying to say is that you can modify your behavior, right? Does it have to be when the house is on fire that you are then going to be modifying, which is my thing about saying flexible thinking. And I think when I brought this issue up, Stan was like, nope, like, you cannot say that men are inflexible. I said, I didn't say they're inflexible. I just said that, practicing flexible thinking can be very difficult because men are binary, right? Is it black or white? I
agree, we are wired a certain way. But can you push in on what we're talking about in terms of flexible thinking? As in how does that
situationally, right? Because it's this idea we say all men are this, all women are this. Like, all women have trouble, they're looking for the best man. Or, as he was saying, he's like, what do you want me to do? Like, the woman, I'm trying to fix a situation here, and they say, no, I just want you to listen to me.
And then the next minute, they're like, you didn't do anything about the situation.
No, not about the situation, about some other situation, right? Like, you're not proactive enough. And so my question is, but you have to realize that this is situational, right?
And my statement was a little more clarity, so that we know which instance we need fixing and which instance we need listening. And you were saying that is proving your point, that is the inflexibility that we're talking about.
Yeah, of saying, every time the person has to tell you. And I said, how about you asking, like, what would you need from me at this point in time? As opposed to it being one directional, of the woman always telling you, this is what I need. Now, not to say that will not work, but I'm saying,
I was about to say that is typically a good one.
Yeah,
and also clarify that this is what I am trying to tell you. This is what you are. This is what you need. In I don't say explicit terms, but So yeah, clear.
Yeah, but the question that I keep saying is that explicitness, right? It means that, to me, it means that you've already put yourself in the position of the underdog. Like someone has to tell me what to do to satisfy them, right? And so the question becomes, can you look at a situation and see what might be needed, and then ask, like, do you think this is what is needed, as opposed to saying, since you're always saying you only want to listen, then it's only listening. I'm going to be listening. I'm not doing anything, right? So
sure. But remember the example I gave at the time. I was saying that perhaps this is an experiential type of thing where you don't want a repeat performance. The first minute you heard, at the past instant, you heard something, you jumped in and you took the actions you thought were necessary. And since then, you're like, you got burnt. So you're like, let me just pause. So let's just say that's passive aggressive.
Yes, it is, because you're not asking again, right? Then that's why we're saying it's not easy, because for something to be situational, it means you have to tackle it every time it comes, and that's the complexity of thinking. To say I cannot necessarily apply yesterday's experience to today, right? Is that idea of saying, okay, what do I need, right? What does this situation call for at this point in time? But the thing is that as humans, right, that's hard to do, because you're like, you are going by what you already know,
have experience,
right? Have experience in. And I'm saying that,
and that experience could be learned. It could be social experience. I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
There's always typically a learned experience.
True. And I'm saying that, one can get so looped into it that it will now take a berry experience to say, oh, I actually needed to shift trajectory, right? As opposed to just knowing what needs to be done, right? And it's not like the person doesn't know what needs to be done, because you see where we live, there's always bare citing instructions, but people don't pay attention to it until this kind of information, like, so there is really this possibility of this thing happening. I'm saying, how do we not get there, right? In that sense. But it's not like you're saying change the man, change the woman. I'm just saying that, that whole adaptability, right, is a key skill that we need.
For helping marriages thrive.
Yeah, adaptability, to say, what does this situation require of me, as opposed to this, like, what painting over everything with one broad brush, right? So
with regards to our so how does this look like with in terms of your life? As in, how would that tie into our webinar tomorrow? As in,
we're going to talk more about it, but it's this idea of, how do you change relational patterns, right? Because every marriage is different, so it's not necessarily that one solution is going to be.
Every marriage is different, and both parties have to agree that there needs to be a change. I guess that's where conflict comes in, where one person thinks there needs to be a change, and another person saying, I don't see the need for a change, everything is fine. So how do we? So again, as in, how if we get to all these divergent parts, right? How do we come back together?
How about we do that tomorrow?
Hi. All right. So we will see you guys tomorrow.
So this is us putting a pause on it, like we do for some of our conversations.
A pin on it.
You put a pin to say, let's come back to this tomorrow. So if you join us on the webinar, you may hear the finishing part of this, in addition to other, things that we're going to be discussing, right? Yeah.
So add the reminder on your phone, your calendar. It's 11 a.m. Eastern time, so which is 4 p.m. UK time?
I think 3 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Nigerian time or West African time.
But I'll have the link down there. So, hope to see you guys tomorrow. Have more time to dive into this tomorrow.
Okay. And then, so tell us, when you're coming in, are you coming in with the mindset of men and women are wired differently and it cannot be changed? Or you're coming in to say behaviors can be learned and, it's dependent on the situation. Okay? So, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.